I've had numerous conversations with fellow professional photographers recently about finding time to shoot for ourselves, about the importance of a sense of fulfillment in our work and balancing that with a need to earn money to pay the mortgage and buy the tools that we desire to pursue our passion. Speaking of my own work, it's very emotionally led. The end images are a product of an innate need to be immersed in woodland and regularly benefit from its power to both calm and restore. I've stubbornly held on tightly to that need, focusing more on how I can creatively express my love for woodland and in that process hopefully build an audience that enjoys my work. The ultimate goal is to sustain a living while producing a body of work to be proud of. With that in mind, my first book was the perfect solution. So in this episode I want to share with you how I went about curating, designing and writing a book from 6 years of photographing trees and woodland. And also what I've learned in the past year since its release, which will help with future publications and hopefully offer you some food for thought too. This is my book, Gathering Time, which I'm incredibly proud of. 128 pages, cloth-covered hardback, 9 chapters, 90 photographs, 10,000 words, foreword by Joe Cornish, and an essay by Lucy Jones. You might be wondering why I've waited a year to make a video about it. Well, I'm sure making a video at the time would have helped with sales, but it's a very stressful process of finalising the book, dealing with the logistics of shipping a self-published book, and then very little time to reflect before becoming consumed by this year's Woodland Sanctuary exhibition. At this point, without the whirlwind of the launch, I can look back with more clarity, insight and objectivity. This image, called Distant Dale from December 2015, is the oldest image in the book, followed closely by Passing Through from January 2016. So how did I get from these to a printed, cohesive body of work? Perhaps the obvious way is to have a project, an idea, a concept to creatively explore, which will evolve as you progress, but has a purpose and an end goal in mind. However, let's be honest, that's not how most of us start. Our intentions tend to be more fluid as we develop and figure out not only a focus for our work, but where our heart truly lies in photography. I was fortunate in some ways because I very quickly realised that woodland is where I wanted to be, well, where I needed to be. And it's where I found my voice in photography. I inadvertently started a photographic project. It wasn't a conscious decision because back in 2015, terms such as curation and sequencing weren't in my vocabulary, which I think ultimately became my book's strength, a body of work which was born from a passion for trees and woodland and a set of circumstance which led me to concentrate my efforts locally. Now I'll come back to this shortly, but it's certainly an approach to consider. Rather than work too hard to seek a particular project, just allow yourself the time to find where your heart lies so that you can immerse yourself in something where enjoyment and passion are sustainable, so that you can have soul in your work. Soul is like the magic ingredient. It's the fingerprint that's stamped on everything that you do. This is perhaps the most important question to answer. What is the purpose of your publication? What is the overriding message? What do you want your readers to feel, to understand? Why should they spend time with your work? Is it something that's purely visual or will it benefit from some narrative? What's the purpose of the narrative? Does the narrative potentially detract or add a meaningful layer to the images? For Gathering Time, I took an autobiographical approach because it's my personal story and health issues that led me to seek solace in the woods. The thoughtful photography is a consequence of my primary motivations for being there, so the story of the journey is in harmony with the resulting images. I spent years mining my own thoughts and feelings to better understand my photography. So to express it in a book was cathartic, but hopefully it's also insightful for the reader. I think you can learn a lot by understanding what makes a photographer tick, their core values and what they care about rather than how they made a photograph. The way that I approached the curation process wasn't to start trawling through my catalogue of images, but was to separate the core message into meaningful chapters. I wanted to explore themes which allowed me to say what I wanted to say, and in turn that gave structure to the image selection process. Now there's a couple of benefits to this. It stopped me from cherry picking the big hitting images, and instead I could focus on sequences which were in harmony with the ideas. And that's probably one of the most difficult things, is letting go of some fabulous images, knowing that what's more important is that the collection is greater than the sum of its parts. In addition, I think the explorative nature of writing often leads to revelations. Things which have been an instinctive part of your workflow come to the fore, and experiences come rushing back when you identify the connection between how you feel and what you see in your photography. Whether you choose to publish what you write or not, it's a valuable process to go through to slowly work through ideas. It's all too easy to adopt a subject-focused approach, but in doing so you might lose sight of the bigger picture. The easy option for me would be to separate a book of woodland images into 4 seasons, but in doing so, not only does it restrict the narrative, but it potentially constrains images to groups where they have little more to say other than, I'm a tree in winter and here I am in summer. If the intention of your photography is to say more about what you love to photograph and how you see the world, then present them in a way that allows them to speak in a way that you want them to be heard. In Gathering Time, I have the following chapters: Synergy, Time with Winter's Pine, The Solace of Time, Gifted Moments in Time, Springtime Calm, Fleeting, Times of Transition, Observers of Time, and Afraid of Time. You can probably get a sense of a pattern there, but these chapter titles were also purposely loose so that I had more freedom with the narrative, and the words combined with the images could not only add depth but give a vehicle to create a story and visual journey that brought the body of work together as a cohesive and meaningful whole. Writing might not be for you. In fact, there's something to be said for not even having any image titles, which could potentially influence a viewer's perception of an image. Whatever direction you take, it has to be about what feels right for you. Either way, the successful flow of the publication is also going to depend upon the sequencing. This is a difficult one because your idea of the right sequence could be different to that of a publisher, a designer, or that of another photographer. I decided to do all the sequencing myself. Why? Because there's subtle connections between images which most people won't see. Perhaps they won't even care, but it's an intentional part of my own workflow which I wanted to preserve in Gathering Time. The important thing is to ensure that the book flows. It smoothly progresses rather than jumps abruptly from one feeling to another. Pairings are important, images that sit together because they share a connection, whether that be through tree species, colour, form, mood, or any number of things. However, visual breaks are also your strength. It's not just about distinguishing a changing theme, but to offer visual shifts through design to keep the viewer engaged and continue the journey. I do have some experience in design, but not so much print design, so I enlisted the help of my friend Aaron, who's a graphic designer, and he helped to create a kind of template and format that I could use in Adobe InDesign. Now, I absolutely loved this part because as soon as you start to put images and text onto pages, you very quickly get excited about just how good photography looks as a book. Personally, I wanted full control over how images were presented, whether that be full page with white borders, 2-page spread, page and a half, etc. It's at this stage where I had to be open to altering sequences to ensure everything came together with text, images, spacing and design. Aaron's final touches of finesse were important to ensure that the text had the right kerning and tidy line ends. When it comes to printing, it's a headache. Paper choice, proofing, covers, binding, the pitfalls of CMYK. All I'd say is that if you're going to self-publish, and depending upon your aspirations for the book, find a printer who will work closely with you. They need to make it very clear how CMYK works, which colours are potentially problematic, how to correctly proof your images, how colour and shadow will be rendered differently depending upon paper choice. You've spent months working on your book, so make sure that the right person is holding your hand for the final stage. You could of course approach a publisher who would do all the heavy lifting in terms of design, print and promotion, but self-publishing was absolutely the right choice for me because it gave me more control, the personal touch and maximise profits so that I could keep my business running. Now don't get me wrong, when it comes to something as big, personally significant, as expensive as this, it's going to get stressful. So you have to weigh up your options and decide how much you're willing to take on yourself. Would I self-publish again? Absolutely. Just a quick note about collaboration. For my own book, I decided to include an essay by Lucy Jones, who's the author of Times best-selling book Losing Eden. The reason for this is because it added substance to my own musings about the well-being benefits of time in nature, something that Lucy studied meticulously for her own book. In addition to Lucy's essays, a fantastic foreword by friend and fellow photographer Joe Cornish. Having these contributions brings a fresh outside perspective, professional insights and an engaging read. Having also had the Woodland Sanctuary exhibition with Joe this year, these projects have transformed me from someone who just wanted to be on his own in nature to seeing the value in these collaborative projects in terms of enriching your own creative thinking and broadening your horizons. Open yourself up to different ways of thinking, and having your own views challenged is really quite liberating. I found synergy between health, happiness, creativity and being amongst trees. The autobiographical approach felt perfect for gathering time, but what I feel is important now is to tell a new story, to build upon the invaluable experience that each project has gifted me, to evolve, to explore new ideas and benefit from the clearer intent and vision of what I'd like to achieve. If you're on the verge of starting a new project or the slight spark of an idea is brewing, then don't put pressure on yourself to have everything figured out and regimented from the start. Find out what excites you, explore your imagination, satisfy your curiosity and find the right balance between discipline and adaptability, but always fun. There are no shortcuts to something truly personal and fulfilling. Cherish the time that it takes so that you can produce something that is timeless. Thank you for watching. I hope this brief overview has offered some insights and inspiration, or at least shown you the benefit of the project-based mindset. Now, I still have copies of Gathering Time available, so please do consider buying a copy to help support the production of more sponsor-free videos and the creation of more books in the future. I genuinely believe that my book will stand the test of time, and it's going to be a while until my next publication, so why not treat yourself or a friend to a copy, and depending upon where you are, you might even have it in time for Christmas. But until my next episode, thank you very much again and my best wishes.